everyone. It's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Tokpe Markodige. And as usual, I have the ladies with me. Mariam looking angelic. How you doing? Yes, you were not ready. Your mind is everywhere.
No,
What's happening to you
I'm
today?
just really surprised with the Mariam looking and angelic. Oh, thank you.
How you doing?
Okay, I'm doing fine. This is you people's Lagos. Now, wow. Now is your Lagos. It's not my Lagos anymore. I left the house about 7, and just to get from one end of that Ojo-Elegua bridge from the entrance part to the exit part, I left there about 7:24. Can you imagine how long it took me just to get across the bridge? Because they had cordoned. I know, but imagine just that bridge. They had cordoned off a part, of course. I think they're about to start work. Would it be nice, except if I missed it? I hope it's not that I missed it. Wouldn't it have been nicer if we were sort of forewarned, or giving like a statement, or giving like a message saying this would happen? So what it would mean, especially because I was thinking of school children, what it will mean is that maybe some people will get up earlier than normal. Because what that has done is that it has backed up traffic. So people will get into work and to school much later than they would normally.
I think we need to get more information from our officials. Yeah, they need to be more open to whenever things are going to change. But don't take us for granted. We have a life, you know.
So even though I had a very active weekend, traffic in Lagos and no notice, like you mentioned, that some of the issues that we'll deal with. So I left Ikeja by 6:30, no, just past 6 on Sunday, but I didn't get to my house till 10 minutes to 10. Because just at Alakija, some trucks are taking over. We have too many border terminals. We love commercialization, but a capitalist system, of course, will ruin Lagos. I think the stakeholders in Lagos should start to look into this. You keep licensing everywhere, commercializing. But that's not my banter this morning. At Oshodi, where you're going up the bridge towards Oworo, there's a serious traffic there, and it will kill you to know that the Lagos State Traffic Management Office is just like 6 buildings away. Under Mr. Olawale, this wasn't the norm. So you don't have people bashing cars and people driving anyhow, but this lane us to 7 lanes in front of NAFDAC because we do not have officials of many security. Usually the police stay there. What they do is to check cars and, flag down cars to collect money. That's what they do there. I've been talking about it on the show too many times, but President Lasma should please start to be felt in Lagos State. If we had Lasma managing the traffic on Badagry Expressway, for instance, I won't be sitting in traffic forever. That road is under construction. Well, of course, we need traffic management. We cannot now have a problem just how many buildings from you under your nose at Oshodi every morning, and we will not see last month.
Oshodi has been in crisis for months now because the road is under construction. And we understand that it will be tough. However, if we can all be orderly, and sometimes you need the officials to impose order, because we are usually extremely disorderly as people. So we can't have these things happening over and over again. Yes, we are disorderly. If you leave anybody alone, they will just go haywire. So the government officials, the security officials need to do their job.
You don't have that same narrative on the
from
side
the yellow
of the
buses.
So they just keep coming from you right left.
So is it a Nigerian thing? Because these same Nigerians, when they travel outside the country, they behave themselves.
It's human beings. I'm not saying it's human beings. If you leave them anywhere.
Other people don't behave that way.
No,
that's what I'm trying to get.
Why, when there's crisis in the US and other countries, everybody will start looting and all of that. So things go haywire where there's no boundary.
It's not
when you don't have laws and
boundaries. Problem. We should fix ourselves.
What's your banter? How you doing?
You want to bash Nigeria now? We should fix ourselves. It's more about impatience. You know that if I wait for this car to go, I will still go. Most times they just want to go ahead and get in, bash you, and start telling you sorry at the end of the day. But these same Nigerians, when they travel, they behave. They stay in queue. They behave themselves. So there's something in the water we drink here.
According to you,
as I was going to say, it's not impatience. It's the fact that I'm smarter than you.
Yeah, we want to beat the system. We're always trying to beat the system. I want to shout out to Tony for styling my hair in like 2 minutes. Girl, you did a good job. I miss you when you're not around. I love you. Shout out to Fola for doing a good job in training, Tony. People are always shouting about my hair. I use Nigerian products 90% of the time now, and there are many of them out.
When she's not wearing a wig.
When I'm not wearing a wig, and I'll be wearing a wig from next week, so calm down. But this is all my hair, and people are loving my hair. So thank you for loving my hair. I love you guys too.
Yesterday was your hair. If you have beautiful hair. I think you should.
When we return, we'll look through the top stories in the newspaper. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Your hair.
Thanks for staying with us. We'll be starting newspaper review with The Nation. Major headline: Governors reject federal government's wage pact with Labour. Negotiations to be based on resources. Union leaders threaten showdown. And in other news, Buhari heads for London on private visit. Oshiomhole Obaseki feud worsens. PDP APC clash over Atiku suits. Parties fight over blackmail. And custom boss Buhari differ on dry port-bound cargoes. Rivers signs MOU with Real Madrid. Finally, laundered 33 billion naira. Lebanese arrested in 1.8 billion naira Lagos homes. So that will be our hot topic for today. So we'll leave that.
Should we do the minimum wage?
Our president is traveling to London.
Okay. Yes, so our president, after his visit to Saudi Arabia, would be going on a private visit. That's how Femi Adesina put it, to London for 2 weeks.
For what?
I really do not know what the private visit entailed, and which is why we'll have to question it, because the president, while he's president, while he has not handed over to the vice president, continue to be a public person. And whose activities should be made public. So it's not a security detail issue that, you know, they will say it's because of intelligence they're keeping it private.
He also went in April. He went for 10 days private visit in April too. We feel that a lot of Nigerians feel this private visit is health related. And, you know, when our president is seeking health care abroad, when they've built many fantastic healthcare centers
in order for us not to speculate about what the visit is
about,
I think he should be more open. This is what the president is going for.
Exactly.
So that we know exactly what we're
Okay, so we're not speculating, we're asking. Please tell us
public funds
what he's going for. So the governors are rejecting the pact. They're saying that...
Yes,
what are they saying?
According to the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, he's saying that states cannot pay above their capacities. That what they had the intention they had initially was the 30,000 minimum wage. But the consequential adjustments will have to be, they have to negotiate with the states, and they will pay according to what they can each state can provide. And that the FEC, that's the Federal Executive Council, cannot tell them what will be obtainable in the states, because they have their own executive council as well, and their resources as well. So, but NLC is saying this could trigger an industrial crisis. So I just hope that they will let the states work out using the template from the federal government.
Lima, right? It's not legal for the states to pay. It's not yet a legal procedure for states to pay a different minimum wage than the federal.
The minimum wage is a federal act. That, you know, of course, and I think the issues that they are bothering about is a consequential adjustment. But the minimum wage, whenever it's amended,
cuts
affects
across everywhere,
and even private sector. So I hear NLC negotiating with public sector, but this bill concerns private sector as well. I would expect that, you know, they do the needful.
My own company is very small. Moving on to the Punch, major headline. Minimum wage negotiations, we've taken that story already. FEC can't decide for states. That says the governors. Labour awaits federal government's template and warns Fayemi. Wage Commission yet to be directive. And in other news, 229 inmates flee as flood overruns Kogi prisons. Man drowns while searching for treasure. Police arrest Obaseki's aide. Deputy governor keeps vigil. Armed soldiers invaded Osun Police Command headquarters. Policeman shoots wife self-dead in Lagos. Senate rejects minister's appearance. Summons Fashola. ASU meets Lawan. Says IPPIS is scam. After Saudi Arabia summit, Buhari jets off to UK from the presidency, and our neighbors must agree to tackle smuggling, says Emefiele. That's concerning the border closure. So, what are we going with?
The Senate Committee on Sustainable Development goes yesterday. Bounce. Something like that. The Minister for State for Works saying that he wasn't well knowledgeable about the ministry to come before them
before she had spoken
budget defense. That's the Senate, the panel chair, Senator Aisha Dahiru. So she said, you are a new minister, you are not well versed about this ministry, and would love the minister
substantive minister
to come. And that bothered me.
It bothered
me because
too.
Every minister is an appointee of government. Yes. If she wanted someone knowledgeable about that ministry, we should be talking to the PS of the Ministry of Works, or maybe another director under the Ministry of Works. Fashola is not under probe. where he needs to appear before any committee.
defense
This
body.
is a ministry, and anybody within that ministry should be able to defend that budget.
Yes, put it perfectly.
Yeah.
So
228
228
inmates, yes, in Kogi State. It's been raining on this particular day for 3 hours, I think. It rained, and many houses were destroyed.
Okay.
And part of the wall of that same correctional center also fell. And so, of course, many of the inmates had to flee for their lives, you know.
legitimately,
So, yes,
because the place was getting flooded.
And so many of them also came back of their own volition, but there are some others who decided that they are going to, you know, escape.
Don't blame them.
But the security personnel have been able to rearrest them.
About
but
100.
but they can't put them back in that facility because, of course, it's
Facility is
damaged.
not
So they are
conducive.
looking for how to rehouse them or her. So that's
So we
where
need
they are right now.
a major
And they
prison
said-
decongestion in
yes.
Kogi State. If
Moving
the
on.
State Ministry of the State High Courts can do something, that Chief Justice also can also help, you know,
Yes,
I think
some
speed
of
up the trials.
Look out for the
Powers.
remaining 120.
No, they said
Police-
the
the
flood is
police-
actually slowing down their escape, so
Okay.
they're catching them and taking them
So the
back.
police shoots
Yeah,
twice.
so this policeman was attached to the highway patrol team of the Lagos State Police Command, and the wife works at the prison's barrack in Ikoyi. So this particular day, they were having an argument. I think the wife wanted to leave the marriage, but then the man insisted, you must not leave this marriage. Then he went out and came back after 20 minutes with a gun. So he threatened the children to leave their mom because he wanted to shoot. They refused, so he shot in the air and everybody ran away. So while the woman was running, he shot her on her leg and shot her in the chest. Then realizing that the woman had died, he shot himself. So he murdered and committed suicide. at the
abuse
same
again
time.
in marriage. When
It's-
the pa-
I
hear
hear
it's crazy.
I see PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a lot of our, even the entire Nigeria is suffering from PTSD. You just need 30 minutes of traffic to have PTSD.
So, but
However,
that is
our
to
security
make-
officials
that is
have it
to
worse.
Make you know, light of what the
No,
issues
it's not
are.
light.
Hold
PTSD
on
is a
a
major
minute.
mental
issue.
issue.
This is a husband and a wife argument. Obviously, there's power issues. There's been
That's another
this
side,
is a series of abuse ending the way we always fear. If you do not leave for the issues to be addressed, when you stay,
Somebody
it
might
might
die.
end like this. And
now
so
both of them
they've
died.
left
Children
people.
orphans.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Anger management. Moving on to Vanguard. Major headline, federal government can't dictate to states on minimum wage, says the governors. We've taken that story already. Some police shoots wife and self dead after a quarrel. 22 inmate escape as flood submerges Kogi prison. Bayelsa Guba, PDP accuses INEC REC of colluding with APC. And 90 million Nigerians live in extreme poverty from the
Yes,
federal
so-
government. We have one more story. 3 arrested as armed soldiers invade Osun Police Command headquarters.
According to our Minister for Disaster Management, Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Sadiya Farouk, we have the federal government is looking under the 2020 budget to lift about 90 million Nigerians out of poverty. How exactly it's supposed to happen, she hasn't given us a breakdown, but she was able to give us a breakdown of the number of refugees, Nigerian refugees in other countries in Cameroon, and the number of Nigerians underemployed,
That's where to
unemployed.
start.
So we have a database, and it is confirmed now
where the problem
that we have
is.
about 90 million
In
out of our
extreme
200 million in extreme
poverty.
poverty. So,
In a country where you have one man,
a
now as
very
our hot
rich
topic,
resources.
having lots of money, where our commissioners and ministers and governors, wow,
Can be
what a country.
saddening.
3 arrested in as armed policemen. Why did they invade Osun Police?
Yes, so this about 28 soldiers attacked this. Well, they went into this police command in Osun State, and the story is unconfirmed that it may be connected to one of the soldiers that was arrested and detained, but they could not ascertain as of the time of this report what the offense was.
So what the
Why.
3?
So anyway, because these 28 of them went in, according to an eyewitness, 3 of them were arrested. 3 of the soldiers were arrested for that, you know, for even
Invasion.
storming that,
Okay.
into the police
That's
command.
good. That's
So-
good. We must respect each other's boundaries. Moving on to Daily Sun. Major headline still on governors rejecting new minimum wage pact. However, we have a new story. Police open fire on IPOB members in Ebonyi State. Who has that story?
Yes,
Quickly.
I do. So the IPOB, according to their leader, Kanu, is complaining that security operatives opened fire on them when they were trying to inaugurate another chapter in Ebonyi, in the primary school that that evening, and a lot of them were injured. But the police, on the other hand, is saying that it was IPOB who opened fire on them, not the other way around. So there's this back and forth between the two groups of who is opening fire and who is trying to suppress the other person. Moving on to Nigerian Tribune, major headline, same minimum wage template issue between the federal government can't dictate to the states' governors, from the governors. But we have two news stories we'll quickly take. Oyo has less than 200 doctors. Last recruitment done in 2006. That's from the PHC boss. And another Nigerian killed, 2 others injured by gunmen in South Africa. So who has which story?
So I have the South Africa story. So according to the head of the Nigerian community in South Africa, 2 Nigerians were attacked in a community, in an area in South Africa called a mining community, where they shot one point blank while they were driving past and shot every other person. So the person driving died on the spot. The other 2 are hospitalized presently. And they linked it, Nigerian Tribune linked it with the story of the 3 Nigerians already attacked under xenophobic suspicion in South Africa. I think based on what happened before, Nigerian media is trying to not report with the gravity of those kind of killings happening in South Africa, but of course the South African government is
so Oyo has less than 200 doctors.
Yes, so the executive secretary, Primary Healthcare Board, Dr. Babatunde Olatunji, appeared at the National House of Assembly, and he was making an appeal that they have less than 200 doctors in Oyo State. Most of them have been retiring, others have been leaving for greener pastures, and they have not recruited since 2006. So he is appealing that if they can increase the budget on their behalf to see how they can, reinforce and get more manpower into that particular industry. I think they should look into getting more doctors for people in Oyo State.
So there was one story we skipped, Emefiele saying the borders would not reopen. He also said that the border closure has been creating jobs and boosting local demand. I could say for a fact that my husband ate at a commercial public restaurant, and all those chains of fast food. And he asked that, what rice is this? He said it was Kebbi rice. And I realized that it's everywhere. So Kebbi State Governor, shout out to you, catching in on...
No, Lagos State, who is subsidizing Kebbi rice in the name of...
No, there is also the Kebbi one.
Should start to investigate their agric boards. Because now they are complicitly doing corruption, selling this rice out to people who will now sell it at the highest price. So he's now selling at 19 exactly.
We should look into that. But the good thing is, as Emefiele said, 2 days ago, the border closure is yielding results. Nigerians are now forced to eat rice. A bit more expensive, but would suffer through this one. Next, we have guest appearance from Growth Lab Africa. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. Joining us to talk about how to solve business growth problems for emerging businesses is the founder of Growth Lab Africa, Deji Agboade. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning. Good morning, ladies. Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing?
Obviously, you did a training recently within TVC facility, and everybody's talking about critical thinking. Immediately they saw you, you left an impression.
Right. Excited about that.
Good. I wanted to ask, why did you decide to set up this Growth Lab Africa, and what's this initiative about?
Okay, so thank you very much, Tokwe. The Growth Lab Africa was born out of a desire to really see how we could help emerging businesses grow and scale. Growing up, I grew up in an environment where for many of the people that were around me, their businesses suffered. My challenge with businesses suffering is the fact that it goes beyond the owner of the business. It goes into the family. It goes into relations and all of that. Because many times for the average Nigerian to start a business, he has collected money from you, collected money from his wife, collected money, all the monies he has put together. All right? So when that business fails, it's not just the man that has failed, the family has failed, the relationships have failed. And so for me, I felt that one of the ways that we could add value was to go into a scenario where we could help businesses move from 1 to 10. And the idea really is that if you can help businesses grow and scale, then they can take care of their family, they can take care of the kids, they can take care of the husbands, the wives, as the case may be. So really for me, that was the idea.
Defined as emerging business, as in Like, and at what point do they need your service?
Okay, so an emerging business for me and for what we do based on our skill set is a business that has proven their business model, meaning that they've been in business for about 18 months, thereabout. Okay. It's a business that's probably doing about 20, 30 million naira a year. And the reason why is that you must have validated your business model. So there are two types, right? So at a startup level, you don't know, the difference between a startup and an established business is that a startup is trying to find a business model that works. An established business is trying to implement an already known business model. All right? So for us, we want to help those who have tried their business. People are already willing to pay for it. Then we can scale you from where you are to where the next level, where else you need to.
Initially, I was wondering how to sustain growth, and that was going to be my question, but then you now mentioned 30 million.
20.
Yes, 20, 30, thereabout. Yes, so, because the point is that people are already happy to pay money for what you provide.
Yeah, but then, we know small businesses might be far below that amount of money. So
those are micro businesses.
How do you, so do the breakdown of the kind of businesses and, that fall under and the ones that qualify for what you deal with, and how, you get those ones into the next level, or you don't deal with them?
For companies that fall into the category that we work with, they're probably, so for example, one of our clients is a marketing company, meaning that, they are able to, talk to people about the services that they provide, and they're able to get 1 or 2 jobs. And the question is, how do you move them from 1 or 2 to 10 to 12 to 15? Obviously, that means they need to grow their capacity, they need to expand the scope of the things that they do, and all those types of things. So there are a lot of things around that. We have, for another example, a pharmaceutical manufacturing company, probably doing somewhere around 60, 70 million today. And the question is, how do we help them grow that? Pharmaceuticals is a very competitive market. It's tough to scale that business. And then, we have people across different levels. At some point, we had a food vendor who was just selling to 1 or 2 supermarkets here and there, and from there they were doing 15, 20 million etc. And the question is, what were we able to do to help them move from that level to another level? And really it's about expanding new markets, helping them see where they can find more of their customers. I was just talking to a lady a few moments ago, and she was talking about her business and how we can help to scale that. And really the idea in scaling the business is, how do you expose me to new market opportunities, to new customer segments, based on what I provide, based on the people who are interested in my service, and how can I get you in front of that?
Okay, you've been this for how long? Because you seem well-versed in speaking about what you do. How long have you been doing it, and what should give me the confidence to come to someone like you?
So I've been advising businesses for 17 years. I started my career in one of the top management consulting firms in the world. I left there about 9, 10 years ago to start my own business, and I've been doing that ever since. Growth Lab Africa for us is an initiative that we launched about a year or 2 ago, specifically, and that's because we wanted to also add value to smaller size businesses that we want to help them scale.
Yeah. So I know you have a conference coming up, Outperform Business.
Yes.
What are some of the things that the business owners will take out of that conference?
So the Outperform Business Conference is designed to really help open up the minds of people to the possibility for growth and scale. When the research has found that one of the biggest hindrances to businesses not growing is not even the fact that there is a recession or whatever. It's the fact that the mindset of the owner is such that he doesn't want to do much more than he is currently doing. And so at the conference, we're hoping to be able to address issues like that. Also, not just the mindset, but to also give people practical tools and things that they can use to grow. So I see business growth in 4 key dimensions. If a business is not growing, one of 4 things is wrong, or a multiple of them. The first one is they don't have a compelling marketing strategy. and a compelling business strategy. And in that case, before you talk about a market, product market fit, you need to first of all talk about a problem solution fit. That's what that's about. The second one is finance. We all know, right? Some people don't have access to the funding that they need, etc. That's one of the things that limits growth. The third one is what I call people, leadership, right? Because if you don't have the right, if you have round pegs in square holes, then the business is not going to move forward. So, and then the last one is systems and structures. And the way I always describe systems and structures is this. If you drive a car and you need the manufacturer of the car to always come and help you start the car every time you need to start it, that guy is never going to scale. Yeah. He'll never grow beyond where he is because he needs to visit too many houses in the morning before that car starts. So you need to be able to build your business such that it works without you. Plug
even
and play.
as a startup.
Even as a startup.
Even as a startup.
So how do you participate? How do people participate?
Yes. How can we get more information concerning the Growth Lab Africa initiative? And how can people join the conference?
Yes. So for more information, just visit www.growthlab.africa. That's www.growthlab.africa. For the conference, is growthlab.africa/growth conference.
Okay.
That's growthlab.africa/growth conference. And then you can call 0809-411-000.
Okay. I wanted to ask one quick question based on what you said concerning structure and financing and those four things you listed. In that, is it possible for, when you coming to that conference, what are the financial opportunities available? I've attended many conferences that promise to help you grow your business, but we hear the same thing, go get a loan and all of that. But you can have a structure, but finance is keeping you from expanding your business. Absolutely. So what advantage would being at that conference provide? And what are the services that Growth Lab gives to such to small businesses to help them scale up? Okay, so
just taking one after the other. On the financing for businesses, we have a couple of companies who are partner organizations with us. They will be there on that day to speak to you about your business directly. So you're not dealing with a middleman. You are talking to them directly about opportunities for funding your business, right? So we have that. We call it the deal room, where deals can happen right there at the conference, right? So to answer the second question around the services we provide, there are essentially three things that we do. The first one is that we help you find more customers. That's how we help with growth. Finding more customers is about exposing you to platforms and opportunities where you can attract more customers. And then obviously it's about defining a marketing strategy and all those types of things. The second one is what we call business support services, where we provide accounting, outsourcing, and financial management advisory. And the reason is because we find that many times, many businesses have money in their business that they're not aware of. So financial management helps us to unlock hidden capital in your business, such that we're able to fund some of the things that you were not even aware of. That you exactly free up some cash. And then the third one is fundraising, where if you need short-term money or long-term money, we help you raise that money from some of our partner organizations.
Fantastic. So when is this event?
Thursday. That's next tomorrow. Thursday, the 31st of October. Doors open from 8 a.m. It's going to be wonderful. Tara Dorotoye will be there. Biodun Shobanjo will be there. Dr. Anderson, very dear friend, will be there. The president of the Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Scale Enterprises, who also happens to be my dad, will be there.
It's in the blood. I follow you guys on social media. So
you do?
I will.
Wow, please do. At Growth Lab Africa, we are on social media.
It was good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we'll be discussing the trending MOFA controversy. You don't want to miss this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. Ismaila Mustafa, a.k.a. Momfa, has been in the news for a while now, as he was allegedly arrested by the EFCC. Momfa was known for allegedly committing internet fraud and money laundering. He's always been living a flamboyant lifestyle. We see it all over social media, Gucci, 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 and has been the envy of most Nigerian youths. So we ask ourselves, is this real? The wealth we see being flaunted, is it possible that all the wealth we see are real, or some of them are fake wealth like this
money.
one. Like the way we see Invictus Obi story break, and we see this Monfa's story break, and then we see people that we think are legitimately hard-working people come up the next day and there is one scam attached to how they got their wealth. Please call us on 07080668014. It's on the screen. Because I know I said that too fast. And you can tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your view, TVC. So, Monfa was found, was arrested in Eko Atlantic. He lives...
No, he was arrested on Friday, the 18th of October, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport on his way to Dubai on intelligence. But his accomplice, a Lebanese, was arrested at the Eko Atlantic, tallest building in Nigeria, so-called.
And the apartment was valued at how much?
1.8
billion naira. That's the value of the apartment he's living in.
The door is fireproof.
Oh,
yes.
you're good here.
So,
language.
they also said that when they arrested their accomplice, they found 5 wristwatches, and the 5 wristwatches was valued at 60 million naira, valuing each wristwatch at about 12 million naira. And there's so much wealth that the way they flaunt it, it's...
Okay, so
let me
just
finish
worried.
Monfa's investigation revealed that, he has a bureau de change along with one of his siblings, which he uses as a decoy, as a cover to, to launder billions of nairas across the world. Because, he is an international personality. And he flaunts this thing along with his little boy on social media. Now, the problem I have with what has been the narrative of conversations amongst Nigerians is leave him now. Is he the only one? He is without sin, cast the first stone. These are the kind of conversations that has continued to degenerate our values. And we're now worshipping wealth as opposed to the, And of course, when you worship wealth, poverty becomes very obvious to you. You don't want to be on the extreme. You just, Shebi is his money. Shebi, the damage that it causes to the country, as financially, of course, is not what we're even discussing yet. It's about the mindset that it destroys, the desperate need to make it at all costs, that that it starts to promote among Nigerian youth. So when we had...
Internet fraud.
Yes, internet fraud has become a norm. People... You see mothers who cannot even speak English, so that you don't say that it's because they've become exposed or because they've traveled to say, Kojale, he's just making money, Chachegbowo, that kind of a thing. He makes money. They took our money when they sold us as slaves. They are taking it back. Every stupid thing to justify this kind of stealing. Now, when the arrest was done on the accomplice at the Eko Atlantic, this man ran into the roof. He refused to open the door. They had to break the door down. It was a fireproof door. The FCC operatives had to do everything to open that door. Knocking on the door could not open it. Him and his wife were inside the house. The guy did not. And when they finally got into the house, the wife said he flew out the window, which was impossible because this was they were at the toppest floor of the building, the highest floor, and it was impossible he would. So the FCC operatives, of course, became worried, and they had already reported that he wasn't found, only to see a small opening on the roof, and they were able to smoke him out.
On top.
Exactly, to smoke him out of there. Got him opening a safe box, a fireproof safe box again, and found charms there. So these people have done everything in the book that we should reject as a community. Exactly.
Mariam, when you read this story, what was the first thought that came to your mind?
For me, it's not really about the crime. In every society, there will be criminals. Crimes will be committed. But what makes it sad is that I find that Nigeria has sort of become a place where people can come and flaunt illegitimate and illegal wealth and get away scot-free. That is what we have become. That we're too afraid to ask questions. We're too afraid to be called out for doing the right thing. Many times you see people who are doing legitimate work being made fun of. How much do you have safe? What kind of work are you working? And you're being called out by a criminal, by someone who does illegitimate business. All of a sudden, those are the people that we look up to. Those are the people that have become role models. Those are the people that we listen to. They're the ones that all of a sudden become the voice of wisdom. Do you understand? Yes. Just because they have money, however that they got it. And that is what makes me sad. Because we cannot continue to give excuses for stealing. We cannot continue to give excuses for... And when we do that, what we do is... there was a time we discussed something like this, and someone called and said, please leave them. An obvious adult, a mature person said, please leave them, they're not doing anything wrong. But Maria put a question to him, would you let your child
go into that?
So, of course, he was like, definitely not my own child, you know. No, but the thing is, sometimes we feel it's easier to accept it when it's someone else doing it, but we're afraid, but we do not want it for our children. But the thing is, if you sow a seed, I believe if you sow a seed, it will somehow come back at you. You have a family member who ends up like that, because even in your own self, you do not have the integrity to stand against something like that.
They don't want it close. The real issue in Nigeria now is people want to be the one.
Yes,
so they
poverty
see
is a sin.
They see Monfa and they want to become Monfa. I don't care how we did it. I just want to be able to wear Gucci like him. I want to be able to drive the car he's driving. That is the real problem. Is that regardless, parents will say, "Shebi, you can see Monfa, that one he gets." So we are not culturally accepting anyhow you do it, just blow. And that is why I felt we must discuss this issue, because we must let people understand that we as a society must start shouting, Monfa is a thief. These people are thieves.
I hear, when I hear people say, it doesn't matter how you win, just win. I feel upset in my spirit. Exactly, because that means there are no more values, there are no more, guidelines. There is nothing there limiting the extent you can get to get success. And that's one of the reasons, I find is the fact that we have chosen to define success as wealth.
Exactly,
so
and that's a problem.
You are doing well all by yourself. You have a small car, you have a small house, even if it's a rented apartment and all of that. Nobody sees you as successful because you are not riding the biggest of cars. You are not flaunting money when you go to parties. You are not,
I'll come back to you.
All right.
Izzy calling from Alimosho. Welcome to the show. Good morning. Sorry we've kept you waiting.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. This issue of Mufas, who is a young man, is when you fail to rub the back of the officials in government. So you become a victim. But if you rub their back, they are all known all over the places. They are, they are filled up everywhere in both Lagos and Abuja and Port Harcourt, and the government knows them. If you don't have to do the needful, rubbing their palms or their back with something, you become a victim. So that's the point there.
Is it? That's what
is not the only guy
his own circumstance
like there are so many of them
allegation.
And you still know them. Thank you very much.
All substantiated allegation.
So
because Eze just said now that the government official knows these guys and they are the ones that are...
But we start somewhere. So the narrative that everybody is a thief, the person where they break meat,
should continue. So let's come back
continue. It shouldn't continue because what he's trying to justify is that there are many. Why Monfa? We start from somewhere. So Monfa is someone who comes outside. Not only is he doing an illegitimate business, he's also using it, promoting it, putting it in the face of government, which is what we say. When the EFCC sees obvious money laundering in any level of life, they must investigate that money. Yes, they must investigate that process. Because you see, Obiadulu was talking about success with wealth. I think people should start to define success themselves. So the society cannot tell me I'm not successful. Like I always say, go on my sister, I'm a mother of two. That's success itself. So whatever you call success legitimately should be, and it's a process. It's a work that you put in process, and every stage of it is success.
Exactly.
So I won't really blame people who feel, leave them alone now. I won't blame them. For one thing, because they see the politicians do things like that, and because they have no, I'm telling you the mindset of the average Nigerian. They see them get away with so many crimes, so many money crimes, laundry. We see laundry broad daylight. Nobody can speak against it. Nobody does anything against it. And so we now, when it's a young person who is doing a private, crime, so to speak, you want to hold. So it's as if the powers that be are working for some people and against other people. So my advice would be to the Nigerian government to make it holistic. If there's a politician who has been accused of eating so money he's not supposed to, let us see prosecution. Exactly, let's see prosecution. So if the young boy out there is seeing that if we can prosecute a minister, if we can send a governor to jail, you know that you have no excuse. So let's make it holistic. A parent cannot be living a life and expecting the child to go the other way. It's modeling, and it comes from the head. So I also expect individuals. You notice that somebody is flaunting money, that you are wondering what is the source of this money? How much are they paying you in your business? How does this person suddenly jump into this money?
When we ask those questions, they will say you are bad belle, number one. Number two is, I saw on social media after Monfa's story broke, what was Monfa's major issue is that he had 51 accounts.
Through which?
And there was a lot of money in those accounts, and he couldn't explain the source of the wealth. And they said, same way Monfa cannot explain the source of the wealth, there are many politicians that come into power without being wealthy and that can't explain some of their wealth. So is it okay for us to just group all of them and say, oh, radar politicians, or like Nima says, start with one?
Yeah. Okay, for me, what you just said indicts also banks. So that's the thing that we're talking about holistically, and our caller also. Because for me, questions are, here you are with so much money, 51 accounts. When I used to work in the bank, you had to do your, know your customer. So where monies were supposed to be coming from, you could tell what this person did. So you were meant to ask, and if it seemed shady a bit, this was something that you were allowed to question. So obviously, our banks are complicit with with things like that. But also, I think the caller said something about mules, that these people are mules. Because for me, I wonder how you are unafraid to show illegitimate wealth. What gives you that backing? Confidence. What gives you that confidence? Is there someone somewhere who you think is untouchable that can protect you?
I think everybody should go and watch
is there?
King of Boys.
So these are things that I agree that maybe these are just boys. These is just the surface that we're seeing, and it's difficult to prosecute people like this because they are attached to much bigger men.
Long rope.
Exactly. So if we're ready as a nation to deal with this, then we should know that a lot of heads will roll.
I'll come to you, Nima, after taking this call. Stephen is calling from Ikeja. Welcome to the show. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Stephen.
Sorry, Stephen. I'm so sorry.
When we say that, the politicians are stealing, and so when individuals are stealing, the politicians are the bad example, statement of fact. But that we cannot pick the individual because we have not picked the politicians. We are simply asking for a Singapore.
No, nobody said
under the former Singapore leader. But what we have here is a democracy. Everybody will say, I have a right, I've been picked. So we will have legitimate bodies come up and say their rights have been abused. So we need to do things when we need to do them.
Yeah.
We can start from anywhere. Recently, the former presidential anti-corruption Oga Oko Obono Obla was picked, and his Kingsmen are shouting that he's being witch-hunted.
Yeah.
When Saraki is picked, he's being witch-hunted. When we pick Monfa again, we should leave him. What exactly do we want as a country?
We're not saying they should leave him. Everybody agrees that we must pick name and shame. Yeah. We have this call, someone calling all the way from Yobik. Roland, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I feel flamboyant wealth display is actually an attribute connected to musicians and hip-hop musicians, all of that. But then my greatest fear in Nigeria is the fact that the effect these people have on the young generation is going out of hand. It's crazy. I mean, I'm coming from where secondary school students are already trying to are already drafting out plans on how to make wealth. And when you ask them of how they want to make it, they don't even know. I mean, apart from that, in my former school, I had a guy that was like, man, every way in a way. All those kind of utterances actually come from people that are so much on social media, and then these kind of guys like Mofa have influence on them. So I think what the EFCC has done is great, and then they should push on and continue with the good work, because the effect these things is having on people like me and even younger than me is just crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland.
Take a sweet tweet to support what he just said. Adefunke says, why do people always try to justify fraud? The fraudster is a thief. Fatima Giwa says, Monfa's wealth has made so many young youth commit suicide. At times, I look at his Instagram page and I just cry. Honorable Ademola says, no one is against flamboyant lifestyle if your source of wealth is legitimate. If you are suspected to have made your wealth in an illegitimate way, then that source of wealth should be investigated. So if Dangote was flaunting wealth, like when he said he counted 10 million, he took it to his house and counted it just to be sure that he was wealthy, and then took it back to the bank, then nobody will be screaming.
Nima, the thing is, those people who make legitimate money don't flaunt it.
That's the thing.
They are too afraid to
The
flaunt
richest men in the world, they don't flaunt money.
Every flaunter is a suspect.
I'm telling you, so
And I
if you
think
go on
that's
social media,
you must promote that. Every flaunter, everybody living flamboyant should be investigated.
Yes, exactly.
Just investigate. Find out where did they get the money from.
Yes.
Investigate, because at least you are putting, if you are putting first class,
Yes.
we know how much first class costs. First class on some flights costs as much as 5 million naira.
Yes.
And you are putting it over and over again. Then we should
These are
call
the people
you
that
out.
made flights out of
That's
Nigeria
one.
more expensive than flights out of Benin. So you are going to UK from Nigeria, you pay a certain amount of higher than you can't even up to half of that in Benin.
Okay. So it's also a responsibility to raise our young people in such a way that they are not carried away with what they see out there. Nobody will train our children for us. So if you model hard work to your child, and anything the child brings home that you did not buy for the child, you question, your child will know that this is not the life for me. So even if I go on social media and I see people flaunting, my daddy doesn't flaunt, my mom, it will be new to the child. But the problem is we have parents who are excited that other people are flaunting and they want their children, and they use sinister comments. Is it not your mate that is just buying car for me? Is it not your mate that is doing this one for my family? Is it not your mate? You know, so that is it not your mate has led a lot of children to do what they are not supposed to do on a normal day. So it's our responsibility to raise our own children. Nobody will do them for us. It's not social media that will raise our children for us.
So our final message concerning values and how, if our nation wants to change, we need to. There are criminals in developed countries too. There would always be criminal elements, but we must portray positive role models to our young ones in such a way that they will not be thinking of wealth without value, which is a problem.
Yeah.
They just want to acquire wealth without thinking of what value am I going to give in exchange for this wealth. And that's why we are talking about it, so that people would pull their kids' ears, that don't just go after anything.
And then parents should start to celebrate inventions among their children, start to celebrate excellence in academics. Those are the successful stories we should start to promote out there as opposed to flaunting new cars.
So we cannot still till today be discussing whether we should honor Adadevo or not.
Why?
People are looking, that's a medical doctor, she gave her life. So there are people who are thinking, I would never do that because it means I'll be thrown away. But someone like Mofa can come and the whole world will celebrate him. So if as a country you want to start to changing the mindset, these are the sort of things you do. When you do competitions for children who are doing maths and English, give them gifts that make sense.
They give them 100K.
No, don't. The other shows that we do, those are private shows, yes, and they get all sorts of money. We also, if you're interested in the sort of children we want to raise, we need to come up with shows that celebrate their intelligence. Do you understand?
Brands
and award
need
them
to
in a way.
endorse
legitimacy.
Business. Don't endorse
not only
just reach
That's a
for
different
our royal fathers who give chieftaincy titles without investigating the source of wealth because of money. Because this Mobala just put that tweet out there and it reminded me quickly. We see that happen under the Obasanjo presidency. All governors got royal titles under a particular monarch in the southwest here. All governors, whether they stole the money or not.
Oh wow, it is well. Nigeria is going to get better. We are going to change the value system. We are going to grow. And we are going to raise strong, responsible adults. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll be discussing dyslexia. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. October happens to be Dyslexia Month. And in commemorating World Dyslexia Day, we have the director of Dyslexia Nigeria, Mrs. Andrian Tikolo. Andrian Tikolo, to talk to us about the causes, types, symptoms, prevention, and cure of dyslexia. You can join the conversation by calling us on 070-8066-8014, or you can tweet to us at TVC Connect, please, hashtag YourViewTVC, so we can read from you. About 2 weeks ago, I watched the movie it's a movie. It's an Indian movie about dyslexia, Stars on Earth, and I saw the struggle of a child who felt incompetent in a society that did not understand his challenges. I saw parents that saw their older children, and other children learning easily and wondering, why are you not getting it? And I saw a society that preys on the weak amongst us. And we have dyslexia as a problem. And it's not necessarily a problem, it's just that we are not identifying it appropriately. So can you first define, because we're assuming people even know what we mean when we say dyslexia. So define it, and can you give us statistics on how prevalent it is in Nigeria?
Thank you. I think it's easy to first just break down the word itself. So dyslexia. Dys means difficulty with, and lexia means language or words. So it's really a difficulty with learning words, and that translates to difficulty with learning to read, write, and spell. Dyslexia is a learning processing disorder. It's a difference in the way a person learns language. And you know, language comprises reading, writing, spelling, speaking, and listening. So dyslexia affects all of those skills, and you find children struggle to learn to read.
Yeah, so does it have anything to do with
it is
your ability to, your intelligence? Does it affect your intelligence in a way, or it just affects the way you learn? Doesn't necessarily mean you're not intelligent or you're dull.
Absolutely. It's one of the things about dyslexia. It has nothing to do with your level of intelligence. In fact, most dyslexics are of average to high intelligence. You know, so, and that's what usually disturbs teachers. The child is verbally very acute. You know, he can express himself properly. He's intelligent. He's very creative. However, he's having difficulty learning to read. And when he can read, it's not fluent, it's choppy, and then it goes on to having problems with comprehension. So you find those that have learned how to read, but then comprehension is still a problem. And when you're in school, and that's the means with which you assess the curriculum, then you can imagine that it becomes a huge problem.
Where we are going. So in Nigeria, a child could be labeled dull, and they use such degrading words to describe children that this one can never, because one child is academically fast. She can read, she can write, so she's top in the class. And the teacher, because she's not trained to understand different learning abilities and disabilities as well, so she knows how to harness the best of the kids she's dealing with, would label one as a dull child because, she can't deal with the particular problem of learning that child has. What exactly can we do as a nation now? Because largely we have a large number of children with label dull in public schools. How can we train teachers to spot, these difficulties and see intelligence beyond that difficulty in a child?
Great, thank you. First, let me even tell you how prevalent it is. Now, about 20% of any population has dyslexia. So 1 in 5 persons. And dyslexia makes up 80 to 90% of all learning difficulties. So if a child is struggling in school, it's more than likely to be dyslexia. The problem is teachers are not trained to identify it, they don't know the signs, and so they leave the children to struggle. And you just fall through the cracks, as we say. So what we need to do is first identify it early. Now, dyslexia is not a disease. It's a learning difference. So the child learns in a different way. And sometimes when we say a child is doing really well and we say some are dull, it's simply because that particular child is probably learning the way that teacher teaches. But we're all different. Dyslexia is a sign of diversity in the population. We all have something different. Everybody's different. If your difference puts you in a situation that doesn't make it obvious, then you don't have anything to worry about. But if your difference is in learning and then you're put in a school, then it becomes by far more difficult for you. So children are not doing as well as they could. They're not realizing their potentials because we're not identifying dyslexia early. We need to train teachers. If you go through the curriculum, even in teacher training colleges, they're not discussing, they're not teaching them about learning difficulties, about learning differences. Then when they get into the service, they're not also having in-service trainings. And so teachers don't know how to identify this. Like, they don't know the simple signs. And then they begin by, oh, the child is just lazy. Usually, they are mislabeled. Because, you know, we don't diagnose dyslexia.
So let's talk about the signs, because someone watching right now wants to understand. She's heard the definition, or he's heard the definition, and is wondering, is this what is happening here? What are the signs parents and teachers can look out for to identify if their child or student has dyslexia?
Right, the basic signs at different stages. In nursery, early signs would be the child is having difficulty associating sounds with letters. And that is one of the basic challenges of dyslexia. It's a phonological awareness deficit thing. So, you know, the child cannot, he knows the name of the letter A, but doesn't recognize the sign. And then putting that together.
Can't blend it.
And then blending becomes a problem. And when you can't blend, then you can't read accurately. When you can't read accurately, you don't have fluency. If you don't have fluency, then you can't comprehend.
On the reverse, so we read from the, how do we read in English? Arabic, we read right to left. So when a child reads the reverse and the teacher doesn't know, that's a problem. How, is that a case of dyslexia?
Yeah, so some of the signs would be, first, he can't rhyme in nursery, he's not rhyming well, he's not associating letters with sounds, he doesn't know his alphabet, he doesn't remember his colors, usually. He doesn't remember a lot of the instructions that you give. In primary, then he really begins to struggle with learning to read. You know, reading is choppy, sometimes they speak late, so usually when you have children that don't speak early, you know, and then they babble a lot, then they have problems with spelling. Spelling is a problem for dyslexics almost forever. You find even adults, you know, that they send you an email and sometimes you're wondering, oh my God, what's happening here? You know, so spelling continues to be a problem. It's one of the main issues, and comprehension is a problem. They have difficulty putting their ideas to paper. They have great ideas. You know, you talk about, let's talk about, say, going on holidays. And the child will tell you, oh, when I went on holidays, you know, I did this, I did that. Now let's write that down. He can't organize his thoughts on paper. He has difficulty with left to right orientation. And many times, like you said, some of them don't know you read from, you know, left to right. They want to go this way, they want to go that way. So many times, but the thing is...
May I please? For a lot of children, when they're growing up, they seem to have difficulties with comprehension and reading. How are you able to differentiate that this is just a young child growing up and this is a child with a problem?
Great. Usually, and this is what I also tell people, because you will find some of the signs in children where they're growing, some of the signs, especially associating letters with alphabet, you know, I mean sounds with alphabets, might be occurring while they grow, but if it is consistent, so by the time a child is in year 1, which is the age you have a window open for making a true difference, you know. If it's, by the time he's in year 1, he can't associate those sounds, he's still struggling with learning to read simple words, you know, his verbal ability is clearly in dissonance with his written ability or his reading ability. That is one sure sign. So it's when the problems are persistent and the signs continue to remain, then you begin to imagine that this might be dyslexia.
So I feel that based on all the movies that I've watched that talk about these things, that these children can be sort of corrected and integrated back. However, I know that in our society, we tend to think we can beat these children into concentrating and that this child is just wandering and being playful and being lazy. So they get a lot of pushback and violence on them. Can this work? Because sometimes it's actually about being disciplined. Is that true? Because I feel like concentrate, you will be able to understand this. Does that work? And 2, what other means of correction can parents and caregivers implement to guide these children?
Good. Beating a child never works. Hurting him doesn't work. Shouting at him, calling him names, all of those create mental problem issues. So the children...
the issue.
Yes, the child now becomes frustrated, has anxiety, depression, and all of that. Let me give you an analogy. You have a bowl of spaghetti, and we all know spaghetti, really long and flexible. And let's take spaghetti to be learning to read and learning in school. And some people come automatically with a fork. It's so easy to eat spaghetti with a fork. Just twist it around, you know, you're good to go. And some come with a spoon. You dig that into a bowl of spaghetti, it just slips, everything slips right off. You know, and that child that is learning in a different way has come with like a spoon. Now he's capable, if we show him how to use that spoon, is capable. He can learn to eat the spaghetti. But if you don't do that, I mean, even as an adult, you try to lift the spaghetti off the spoon. After a while, you get frustrated, you push it away. Then we say the child is not listening, he's not paying attention, you know, he's lazy, he's running around. But he's frustrated. He can't access the curriculum. You're not teaching him how he learns.
Yeah, so the thing for me is, because I'm a teacher, and I happen to work in a classroom. I was trained in Montessori, and then we're taught to identify kids who are having difficulty in learning, especially with the sounds and blending and, you know, reading. And there was a special class it's called the Special Learnings Department, where kids that have been identified from the normal class will be taken there for special lessons on, you know, they have professionals who are trained to do that. But we as a teacher are trained to be able to identify. Now, she mentioned something which really brings pain to my heart, that most of these kids are found in public schools. So I would like to ask, what sort of conversations are we going to be having with school owners? We should put ourselves out there. Are you having any plans to have conversations with school owners, proprietors?
What's Dyslexia Nigeria doing?
Exactly. What are we doing about how to solve this for those people who are not able to afford such schools that can differentiate, identify, and help them?
Train them.
First, let me say all teachers now are teachers of special needs. Gone are the days when you think some teachers, you know, they have been trained as special needs. Everybody, you know, we all have differences in the way we learn, and every teacher must be trained to identify that and work with that. So taking children out, you know, and for other teachers to deal with is no longer the in thing. What are we doing? The first thing we must do is identify this early. We have a window of opportunity to make a true difference. Now, if you do something in year 1, that is end of kindergarten or first class in primary, then 90% of those children will not have to struggle with learning to read. You know, if you don't do anything by year 4, 95% of them will struggle throughout school.
Wow. Have you seen our curriculum on how to train the teachers? Are we equipped for it?
We are not. We are not doing it. That's what I'm saying. That the curriculum is not even addressing, the curriculum for teacher training is not addressing learning differences.
There's a body Let's take a quick phone call. Jimo has called all the way from Surulere. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Good day, ma. I just want to talk about that issue of the dyslexia.
Okay, go ahead, please.
What I believe is that most of this problem is from the public school. Because the teachers are not trained towards that. Even in their school time, school period, maybe the NC or whatever, the curriculum, there's no curriculum that trains them towards that. But the private school, even when they employ untrained teachers, they try to train them and they learn that they are doing very fine. So maybe if the government can do something towards that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimo. It's not that clear.
Can I respond?
Yeah, please go ahead.
First, dyslexia affects the entire population. It's not located in just public schools. It's all schools. 1 out of 5 persons is dyslexic. Even as adults, 1 out of 5 is dyslexic. The other thing is that teachers are not trained everywhere. I mean, in Nigeria, they just don't know the science. If we knew the science, if we could identify the children early, we can make a difference. It's not just in public schools. And beyond that, we also find that some schools feel, oh, well, the child isn't doing so well. Let me just take him out and do extra lessons. If you're doing the same thing you're doing in the mainstream classroom, you're still not going to make a difference. Dyslexics learn in a different way. Unless you're teaching them the way they learn, it will not make a difference. So you need to screen, you need to do an assessment, you need to know what the child is struggling with, and then know how to address
Let's take this quick phone call. Peace has called from Lekki. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, beautiful ladies.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to my sister there, Mo.
Mo? Ah, okay. Mo.
All right, can I respond to the previous topic, if you may allow me?
All right, sir.
I have a personal experience about this Murphy thing. I remember when I was growing up, getting a 10,000 naira job for a month. I remember my father told me, your mate, look at your mate, he's driving big car. Look at him. I can't go and steal. One of the problems in this society is caused by our parents and also the society. Everybody's all rule about money. I remember telling him that Dangote is also your mate, so why didn't you be like Dangote? But today I'm doing well, and at the end of the day, most of those guys, it was making me to be looking high. They're all in prison in South Africa. I just want to say, we have to learn a very big lesson, especially our parents. Please, our parents have a lot to do. Thank you.
Isn't it funny what Prince is saying? That now children are teaching parents the right way to behave.
Yes. Anyway, quickly. Does this VAC learning styles, does it have anything to do with how, because a lot of kids learn in different ways, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic. So if you adopt that in the classroom, will it capture even the kids with dyslexia?
It will capture to an extent. However, dyslexics they learn beyond just that. Because we have different learning styles, but they also need to address the way their brain processes language. And so you need to teach them in a more multi-sensory method. So it's more about the method you're using. Despite the fact, the way they learn, the method you're using to teach them, the resources you're using, and how you're putting that information across to them.
More like didactic materials?
You need all of those, exactly. But you also need specific things to do, because phonics alone is not enough now. You need a more multi-sensory method of teaching.
Okay, so my question is, are dyslexics, are they the same? Or are they unique in their own way? So can you put them in one class and find a method to teach them, or you have to take one per child?
No, so usually dyslexia, they're literally like it is a spectrum. So you go from mild to severe, and that is why you need to do a sort of assessment. So you do a screening, find out if the child is showing the signs of dyslexia, do an intervention.
At what age do you do this?
5. But dyslexia can be diagnosed successfully at 4 years old, but 5 is ideal. That's the window of opportunity we have. So at 5 years old, you do that assessment. So they're not all the same. But once a child begins to struggle, you want to do an assessment, find what areas is struggling with, because dyslexia also affects memory. It affects processing speed, and it's beyond phonological awareness. And so is he having more of memory issues? And should we be addressing that in the way we teach him? Is there a method of giving him instruction? And what should teachers be doing? What accommodations should we put in place? If teachers know how to give accommodations in the classroom, about 80% of dyslexics will be taken care of in mainstream schools. But if not, 90% of them will fall through the cracks.
The last time you were here, I asked the question because, of course, Nigerians worry about money.
Yes.
So the moment you say screening,
Evaluation.
What is that sign that you see as a parent? Because if they say mother, and all their fathers will leave it for us. As a parent, what is that sign that you see and you know this child is worth me paying that screening money for?
I would take that as looking at unaddressed dyslexia. The problem of not addressing dyslexia is school failure. The child is not, you want your child to do well, you want him to compete with every other person, despite the way he learns. So school failure and the resultant mental health issues that come from that, depression, anxiety, the increased risk of suicide. A lot of the students in university that are committing suicide, a lot of the time it's attributed to dyslexia.
Wow.
And then the cost to society, the cost of, people going into criminals, into criminality, the cost of, unemployment to society because the child hasn't learned properly, he's not employable, he's dropped out of school. There's a lot of cost to society, a lot of cost to the person individually. So as a parent, you want to ensure that you're doing enough for your child to succeed, and he can succeed.
Yeah. So, I'm thinking, I cannot imagine the frustration knowing that you're intelligent and somehow no one can see it. It must be really frustrating. But I would like to, what can a school do, really, to help with this issue? What exact steps can they do? What would, because now you're saying we can't put them all in one class.
We can.
Okay, we can put them all in one
in
class.
A classroom, but different categories.
Okay,
yes.
So we can have maybe the way we do classes now, we have A, B, C. So do we have a C class? What we have to,
No. You have one mainstream classroom. The teacher has to learn to differentiate. So that's what it's called. Differentiated learning. Yeah. No, before we even get to one-to-one learning, usually one-to-one occurs when the child has fallen into spirals of failure and he can't catch up with his mates. Yeah. But if you start early, year 1, you already start by differentiating. You identify the children.
What would the person be doing? What would the teacher be doing?
You will be planning your lessons such that you're taking into consideration all the different
children in the class.
So a lot of this
learnings that the children undertake and the different methods that they learn. And that is what teachers are trained to do.
Yes.
You must do differentiated learning. Now, once you identify a child as being dyslexic, then you must have a specific literacy program for that child.
Oh,
you develop
so you
an
want to know
IEP.
what that specific
But
program
you
is.
need
Because
to
I
do
know
an
school.
assessment
Yeah.
to see what the child
Because
exactly is
like my
struggling with.
child's school now, they now have screen boards on there. So they also have videos. Before it would be the teacher speaking and they'll read. Now they have the screens and pictures will come up and videos.
And that's good. So that captures those that learn visually. But you still have those that don't learn visually.
Yeah, so
Aesthetic learners.
So you have
because
exactly.
of dyslexic.
But so for dyslexia, you need to do an assessment.
So that's the thing.
You
when
need
you
to do an
assess, you
assessment.
identify what the problem
Yeah,
is.
then you
what we-
diagnose.
I get that.
Yes, you know, once you diagnose, and I use, you know, usual medical terms. So if you're having a headache, you know, and a temperature, you can't just assume it's malaria. It could be anything else. So you need to go to the doctor, do a diagnosis. Once you diagnose it, we know exactly what to give
And I
you.
wanted you to touch on the frustration parents go through when they feel their child is dumb or is dull. You know, because a lot of parents feel like they see the child is slow, and it is frustrating as a parent because you have expectation on how to. So can you just give a quick final words to those parents on how to deal with the situation they're in?
First, to know if it's dyslexia, your child is intelligent, your child can succeed. All you need to do is find the appropriate support and give it. Your child can succeed. Don't, you know, don't harass the child, don't call him names. Give him all the support. You are your child's first advocate. Advocate for your child. Go to the school, speak to them. Tell them about what you know about your child and give the support.
Okay, first, as Akimboyewa says, dyslexia does not only affect children alone, it also affects adults. Reasonable adjustments in schools and workplace will go a long way in helping dyslexic individuals minimize the challenges they experience. Dadaoloweyo says, can we then say, according to your definition, that the crop of Nigerian leaders that we have are dyslexic?
To round off the show, we'd like to remind everybody that we must never label a child negatively. No child is dull, no child is dumb, no child is retarded, really, if you just find the learning modality. And also, all caregivers, parents, teachers should learn. Parents, teachers should continue to learn. And this, Google what the word is, dyslexia, and research on it to be sure of how to deal with it. And by God's grace, would be able to raise responsible adults at the end of the day. Join us tomorrow for our live audience show. Please remember to come early, dress nicely. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye.